Hello and welcome to another video. So in a previous episode I talked a little about introducing compass skills. So we had a compass skills, a treasure hunt, and I'll leave a link to that in up above and in the description. But essentially it was a good way to get children exploring and navigating through a site and teaching some really valuable life skills in how to use a compass. So today I wanted to talk a bit more about maps and mapping and how I think about introducing maps and start getting children thinking about using maps and creating maps. So we're going to look at two different activities or two different ways of thinking about using maps. Hopefully this will be some inspiration for you in making your own map-based sessions. So if that sounds interesting to you, do keep watching and I'll see you in a moment. So probably one of the easiest ways to introduce mapping, and something that I use quite often, quite early on in my sessions, is to make a map of the site you're in. This can be done quite simply if you use a quadrant approach. So you can, if you want to, use a compass and line these sticks up with the cardinal directions. So say we've got south heading that direction, got west heading that way, east heading that way, and north heading that way. So you can either have the points of the sticks being the cardinal directions, or you can have the gaps in between. So say that would maybe be south that way, and then north that way, east, west. It's up to you. Or you can just put 4 sticks in the ground and kind of align them to interesting areas. And so once you've done that, you can make these sticks as long as you want. You can make the map as big as you want or as detailed as you want. Depends on the size of your site. Depends on the age of the children. All of those things, as always, are factors. So what you're going to do is you're going to divide children into 4 groups, and then you're essentially going to give them directions. So you're going to say, okay, one group, you're going to head in this direction. Can you see? Okay, and I just want you to walk in that direction, have a really good explore, have a look at what you come across. And group number 2, you go head off in that direction, see what you come across. Group number 3, head in that direction. Group number 4, head off that way. And I want you to notice things. I want you to take stock. Tell me more. When you come back, I want you to tell me about the trees, about the things you've found. And we can then come back in. So after a while, call them back in, give them time limits, so on. Say, okay, well, let's see, what did you find? So we can either have them, depending on the age and so on, bring back something to represent what they found, or we can just kind of talk through the process as we go. So one of the children might say, oh, I found the forest school circle. And you go, okay, well, what did the forest school circle look like? Well, it had benches around the outside. So you go, okay, let's grab this piece of wood, and that will show we've got those. So we had those benches in a square. How far away were they from us? Oh, it was quite close. Okay, so we'll move it. Was about this close? Yep. Okay, and what did you find after the forest school circle? Well, there was this little fairy hotel. Okay, well, bug hotel. Let's put that over there. So was it straight in that direction, or was it more over that way? We might talk about cardinal directions as we go. And we can then start creating a map. And then this can be drawn onto paper. It can be done just as a map on the ground here. You can take a picture of it. It's good evidence and so on. So let's just start introducing it, and by dividing it into those quadrants, we've got areas where we've kind of simplified it. We can also divide these further. If we've got a really big site, if we've got a lot of children and we want to divide them into small areas, we could even create kind of mini, I don't know what you call it, octrants or something, we can create more sections and divide it up further. But what we want them to recognize is the placement of objects in relation to themselves here, to a starting point here. Like, what comes first? As you head out, what is the first thing you trip over, or the first thing you see? That's going to be closest. The other stuff is going to be further away. And then we talk about direction. We can talk about north, south, east, southwest, so on. We can talk about distance. And then we're starting to create this map, starting to create this idea of being able to record features, landscape. And we can talk about things that we can talk about the permanence of features if we want to get more, we want to dig deeper into the map skill. We can go, okay, that little child there said, oh, I found a squirrel. Now, is the squirrel going to be in the same place next time? No, it isn't. Is a tree going to be in the same place next time? Oh, yeah, maybe. Is there a way that it wouldn't be? Can we talk about a big stone? That's not going anywhere. It's going to take a massive amount of effort to move that anywhere. Oh, what about the mud kitchen? Well, sometimes we have it over here, sometimes we have it over there. That's something that's movable. So we start discussing permanence, which comes in heavily into when we are using maps in the future, because using proper Ordnance Survey maps, because that is something that I talked about recently with a teen session. Its permanence of a feature is really important because paths change. We found that out. There were paths that weren't on the map, and there were paths that were on the map but didn't exist anymore. They'd been overgrown by brambles. So you've got to be aware of how permanent an object is when you're using a map. But anyway, this is a basic idea for how to start getting that conversation going and start developing those mapping skills. Now that we've talked a bit about creating maps, I thought we'd take a look at using maps that other people have found. And this is where the core skills come in. So Ordnance Survey maps are quite good, but you will find that they are quite large scale. So you won't get as much detail on them, and if you have a smaller site, it can be difficult to make up things there, in which case I'd recommend getting an Ordnance Survey subscription, or try their free trial, download a couple of their maps of your particular area, zoom in as much as you can and see if you can record something with a bit more detail. So I did that for Woodgate Valley and ended up with something a bit closer to this. So that will give us something that we can drill down a bit more. But I like to start off every kind of chat about maps with working out where we are. So that's a core map skill. Whenever I do a session on mapping and something like that with a new group, I always ask them, okay, what's the most important thing in navigation? They go, how to use a compass, having a good map. And I'm like, no, let's drill down. What do you need to know before you start going anywhere? Where are you going? Yeah, that's a valid point, good point. But really the most important thing is knowing where you are. Because as we talked about in the compass episode, in the compass video, if you have an incorrect version of where you are, all of the choices you make are based on bad information and will take you further and further away, and you start getting confirmation bias and you start reading things into the landscape that you didn't know exist, and that is a way to get yourself badly turned around in the wrong place. I've been guilty of this. It's something you start going, oh, this must be this path because I thought I was here, and we start reading in what isn't there. So first and most important thing is find out where you are. And when it comes to maps, that is something that first thing we talk about is noticing. We play a game of extreme noticing. So okay, here's the map. This is a really big map. Let's see where we can find it. Even if you have a smaller scale map of your local area, it can be sometimes difficult to pin it down. So go take a look around, listen. What can you see? What can you hear? What are the differences in terrain? So, an example right here. So we'll take a tour around. Pop it up. Okay, so in this direction, what do we notice? Well, we have, you can see a lot of shade in the foreground here. That's because we are at the edge of a woodland. See, here's the woodland there. There's all my kit and equipment down that way. And we are looking out at an open field. What else do we notice? Well, can you see how the trees are taller up at the top than they are down here? We are on a slope. Again, we're talking about permanent and impermanent features. If someone says wood pile, well, that wood pile has only been here for approximately 2 months. So that's not a valid ID feature. We can go around. Oh, stone. Well, if we have a really small scale map, this stone might show on it. If it's a particular landmark, that'll give us a bigger clue. So if it was a trigonometry point, that'd be really useful. We can look around. And what do we see? We see a path, a U-shaped path on the edge of in a woodland, on the edge of a field, down a slope. These are all things we can start working on. We can see, oh, right up there, there's a gazebo structure. Now that is more permanent. So that if we see a gazebo marked in the map, and it's uphill of a network of paths and woodland, and at the bottom of which there's a U-shaped, dense, deciduous woodland marked on the map with a stone, then we've narrowed it down. Go, oh, what did we hear earlier? Well, there was a steam train down there, so we're looking for a railway track. The railway track that is behind us. So railway track at the bottom of a slope. If we've got a compass, we could talk about, okay, which direction is the railway in? They'll tell us which side of the railway tracks we're on. So looking at this map of the Woodgate Valley Country Park, you can see, as I was talking about, okay, what can you hear, what can you see? Well, when we are on our site, we often hear the motorway just traveling along here. And then we can say, okay, well, which direction is the motorway in? Well, if I point in the direction that I think the motorway is, and then I turn the bezel, and go, okay, well, it's to the west of us. So therefore, we must be in this area here. So we are to the west, because that means the motorway would be to the west of us. Yeah, okay, let's drill it down. Where are we? What can you see around us? I can see, okay, well, I can see a bit of grassland, okay, and a bridge, and a river. Yeah, okay, well, which direction is the river from us? And they'll tell us which side of this river we're on. And then we can go, okay, where does grassland meet woodland meet river? Well, about there. And so we're starting that whole process of thinking about looking at the terrain and interpreting it. Now, if we wanted to get a bit more in depth, we could talk about contour lines, but this is something that's really worth taking into a different, completely different session. Contour lines, that really needs physical models to explain really well. But essentially, you can say these lines are where the ground either goes up or down, and you can see the numbers are going down, 180, 175, 170. So that means this is a higher point than that. And when the lines are further apart, it means a shallow slope. When they're closer together, it means a steeper slope. So a cliff would have lots and lots of lines really close together. So we can start talking about slope. But as I said, that's really good for a model. And the other thing is we can find those permanent and impermanent markers. You can say, hey, okay, well, there's a building over there. I can see a fence, which is more permanent. I'd argue a building is slightly more permanent than a fence. Fence line shifts, boundaries change. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. And we had a little walk along here, and we arrived at this point. And you could see a path heading all the way south along this area. And now the standard assumption would be we walked along this path, we reached a crossroads, so therefore we must be over here because we're next to grassland. And this is where you can start talking about pacing and about things that are, again, permanent and impermanent. So once you've got a good understanding of where you are, this is a good opportunity to start talking about, okay, how can we navigate to where we're going? And that involves orienting the map. And this is a critical compass skill as well. So what we do is you can see these lines here on the compass base plate and in the bezel. So you want those going in the same direction as the lines on the map, these blue lines here. And then we're going to just line those up. Yeah, so you want these lines going in the same direction. We're going to line those up. And then, as I said in the compass, you're going to rotate both the compass and the map. So keeping the two together. Compass if you have a clipboard. Until north lines up to north. And then we know that looking in this direction of north arrow, means if we are standing here, then everything to our right is going to be east, everything to our left is going to be west, what is directly in front of us is going to be to the north. So this will tell us which way we need to go down a path. So if we have a path to our right, then we know that is going to be our east path, and we are going to be heading away from the motorway. So if you have a bigger site, or you can get out into a local park that has a bit more distance, you can talk about this. You can get to a path junction, orient the map. So remember, line up the lines on the bezel, turn until you match, and then you go ahead in that direction. And then you've got your map set up, and then you're going to be able to work out which direction you need to go in. And then of course those compass skills come in hand. We want to travel east. Okay, let's turn our bezel to east, rotate ourselves on the compass until north points to, the red needle points to north, and we know we need to head in that direction. Now you can probably see how this fits in with a bit more, well, it doesn't seem like a forest school type activity at first. It can rapidly morph, and I feel like it's about exploration. It's about not coming at it with, okay, there's an answer I'm looking for and I'm going to keep pushing until I get that answer. Sometimes just, instead of talking about, I've waxed lyrical about this, permanence and impermanence of objects, we can talk about what we notice, we can talk about situating ourselves, and we can just have those discussions and start opening it up and start having a play around with traveling in different places. It can be a good idea to sometimes just let them make a mistake, head in a direction that you know isn't correct, see how long it waits until it gets, before they notice that they headed in the wrong direction, see whether they'll correct themselves. maybe a good idea to step in and go, okay, where do you think we are? And I just encourage you, just get a bunch of maps, clipboards, compasses, and just have a walk and go, okay, we have now walked this far south on, we knew we were here, we've walked south, so where should we be now? I'll point on the map. Go, okay, have a look around us, does that match up? Can we see a building to our right? Do we have a fence to our left? Are we walking downhill? And I go, yes or no? And this is where we need to be careful again, not reading too much in the landscape and going, oh, that building must be that building. Okay, what kind of building does it say it is on the map? Oh, it says that's a school. Is that a school? No, it's a church or a block of flats or something else. So it's honing those observation skills, having those conversations while you're out and about. And I said, it's better with a bigger site, but you can do these micro works. You might have to design your own little map. I'm not saying that you should go onto Google Maps, zoom in and print that off, but that's what some people would do. It's not good. This would be against copyright. Don't do it. Well, I hope this has stimulated a bit of an interest in maps and mapping skills and compass skills. Like I say, I consider it a life skill. Access to the outdoors is a valuable part of your life, and getting lost in the hills is not good for your health either. And hundreds of people get lost every year relying on things like phone GPS maps and so on. And increasingly technology reliant society, it's good to get back to the basics, the things that do actually work, and the things that fulfill us more, rather than just following a soulless nav. Actually getting to know your local area and using these skills really valuable. We may well talk a bit about natural navigation. That's a whole different topic. If you're interested in that, I'd really recommend checking out Tristan Gooley's books, Natural Navigator and many other things. They are absolutely fantastic. They will change the way you learn life. I will put a link to those in the description. And now that the helicopter has passed by, we can start enjoying the peace and quiet over here at Wilderness Woodlands again. So if you're looking for a peaceful camping experience in Shropshire, not too far from Birmingham, it's about an hour's drive for me, this is a fantastic location to be. Do check them out. I'll leave a link down in the description. They do help make these videos possible by allowing me to film on this beautiful site in what is most of the time peaceful and quiet. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you would like to have more activity ideas, I'll have a link to my PDF of all 20 of my favorite activity ideas, one of which is the treasure hunt we covered in last episode, down in the description below. Thanks again, and remember to, as always, make the most of every day, and I'll see you all next time.